Good evening. My name is Bill Perrault. I'm here on behalf of Chris Young to my left. Chris is a local resident, the owner of MSA Mortgage, doing business here in Vermont with its main office in Winter. Chris has purchased a building that some of you may be familiar with on Stillman Place. It's a building that burned approximately a year ago. Give or take a little. A serious fire that basically burnt out the entire building and damaged the two buildings on either side of it. When Chris purchased the building, it was burnt through the roof, so the first thing he did was basically seal up the building so that there wasn't water penetrating the building and the abutters buildings on either side, which had become a problem. He's proposing to redevelop this property into 4 residential units. The history of the property has been that it has been a 4-unit building, but when previous owner last filed with the city, they filed it as a 3-family, although it was 4 units. It was never clear in the building department record how they were using it as 3, meaning none of the units were connected as such, but they listed it as being used as a 3 rather than 4. So we're asking that it be used as a 4-family. The proposal that we have is to redo the entire building, meaning all of the structural supports of the building have to be replaced as the prior. The brick walls also have to be reinforced again, as well as the basement and so forth. We are proposing that the upper 3 floors be single units of this building. Those are 2-bedroom apartments that are approximately 600, just over 600 square feet, and that the basement and first floor be a duplex, which is a 3-bedroom apartment that is approximately 1,200 square feet, with a utility room and trash room, also in the basement, which you will see on one of these plans here. In doing this, the building has a rather small floor plate, and we're asking also to extend the rear portion of the building, which is this yellow area that we're talking about here. So if I can walk through it, the basement would go out approximately 16 feet to the lot line. I'll give you some of the reasons for that in a minute. And the upper floors would go out approximately 8 feet here, which will allow the floors to be a little bit larger so as to accommodate 2 bedrooms. As I mentioned, they're not very large floor plates, so even with the additional space, these are approximately 600 square feet of space. And one of the thoughts of bringing out the lower level is Chris is not putting any decking, balconies, or yard space. I know that sounds a little unusual, but it's actually in response to the fact that these will be rental units that Chris will own. He owns a couple of other buildings in the North End, also as rental units, and did not want to put a roof deck on, and did not want to put balconies on, primarily for the same reason, which is it's on the greenway. People have lots of outdoor area, and rather than giving renters a possible place for partying or noise, etc., for abutters, that was done in conjunction with meeting with his abutters that he wouldn't have those types of outdoor space. So that tends to be one of the violations that we have, is that we're not providing 100 square feet of outdoor space for the 4th unit that we're creating. So again, with the change, the facades remain the same. There's a connection between the buildings that we're leaving at the request of the abutter on this side, which are the fire escape units, although our building will be fully sprinkled. It doesn't need the fire escapes. We've agreed to leave them so that they have a second means of egress from the other building to come into the windows of this building. Chris has met with the abutters on either side, one of which is the Mendoza family, and the abutters behind him, which is Phil Frateroli, where he recently bought a building and renovated it. Excuse me, they have been supportive of this. Don't give the pictures of what the building looks like today.
The front of the building's already been repointed and the brick's been rebuilt.
Yeah. But as you can see, you know, the building has been, you know, in dilapidated condition since the fire. It wasn't in much better shape actually prior to the fire. They believe that somebody, you know, maybe a homeless person, whatever, got into the building late at night and left materials that caught fire the next day. As I said, the building wasn't in very good shape to begin with, but the fire absolutely pretty much destroyed what was left of it. So what we're proposing is saying a new 4-unit building, fully code compliant with sprinklers, with a lack, as we say, of outdoor space, but intentionally so that there isn't some open areas for decks, etc. And last but not least is, I think it will resemble what was there before. That street is very sort of homogeneous in terms of the looks of the buildings, so it will look, again, the way it had in the past. And we're not adding any height or anything to the building at all.
Great. So our process is normally, if we have abutters present, they are the first that are allowed to ask questions. So let me call for abutters, and if there are none, first round is questions, and then the second round is comments. So let's get the questions out of the way first. If you have a question, I call on you, please identify yourself, stand up, name and street, and then ask the question. If there are any questions. There's a question.
I have a question. Victor Branya on Atlantic Avenue, far away. But I just noticed on plan number 83, it looks as though there's a rear yard.
No, that's actually, if you look at where the second building is on the corner. So if you look at it, we extended the building out fence height all the way to the property line for 2 reasons. A, to eliminate the yard. B, it wouldn't, part of the reason we're only coming off the building 8 feet is after talking to the abutters, there's a lot of light, they get a lot of southern light there. So by going out to the yard on the fence side, it doesn't obstruct any of their light. And then we cut the building back to 8 feet. So that it'll leave, it's actually 18 feet from the rear.
Well, I understand that, but it looks as though this rendering, this perspective rendering over on the right,
Yeah, that white is just the roof. You can see the windows and the door. Yeah.
Well, Victor's looking at that. Let me point out the so-called basement level is actually elevated.
Oh, I see.
You walk up, I think, 5 steps to the first floor. So the basement on the front is 3/4 height, but as it gets to the rear of the property, it's a full height. So it's not a submerged basement as one might think of it. It's actually considerably above ground and fully above ground at the rear.
Dave Kubiak, Stillman Place. You may have mentioned this, but I'm sorry if I missed it. I heard you say that the fire escapes will connect the building next door to your building so that they will have secondary egress, emergency egress. In your expansion of the building, are you providing a different secondary egress, or will it be those same fire escapes?
The building actually existing has fire escapes on the front of the building and the rear of the building. So we only needed to keep the front of the building. We could have taken the rear off, but at the request of building 2, they asked can you leave the rear on. So we're going to just cut, because our buildings are flush now, we're going to cut the fire escape and reconfigure it in an L shape, and we have a window there so they can exit both through the front and the rear. So our building will also have 3 exits, the front door, all of the fire escapes on the front, and the fire escapes.
Because it kind of concerned me that to escape a fire in one of these small buildings, you have to try to gain access to the small building right next door. But in your case, you can go out the front.
And each floor has a fire escape on it, so you'll have front and rear in the event of emergency.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we can open it up to commentary, and I know David Marks. Something to say?
David Marks, Thatcher Street. I just wanted to say several things, all positive, of course. Here's a gentleman that's been invested in the neighborhood for quite a while, has a successful business, which is great. Does a great job with buildings. It was great to hear, number one, not just what I said, but number one, that you successfully were able to work with the others. Number two, so thank you. Number two, trash room. How often do we ever hear about any buildings, whether they had 5 apartments or 18 apartments, have a trash room? It might be technically impossible in some cases, but I'm actually willing to believe that in many instances, maybe they don't want to spend the money. Obviously not this year, so thank you for doing that. And from a public safety point of view, third, last but not least, thank you for bringing that up, Dave. Thank you for making the various means and modes of egress, obviously very, very important.
I had a question, just looking at the original square footage and then the square footage with the addition that you're planning. What, do you have the before and after figures? You might have mentioned them already, but. Look on the plans.
The upper floors. The upper floors at 8 by 17 square feet, so that's 80 and 50, 130 feet.
The floors are, the addition is 8 by 17.
Right.
The existing floor is 18 by 28. Yeah. Right. That's the existing, and it's now going to become 36.
So that's roughly, my calculation, 136 square feet on the upper floor side.
Per floor.
Per floor, right. And a little more on the lowest level.
Correct.
And I was just thinking of it as a percentage. It looks like it's roughly 30% boost in the square footage of the buildings with that in addition.
That is correct.
All right, good. Just for information. Any other questions, comments? Praise or derision, anything? Okay, going once, going twice, gone. We will vote on this item then, if that's okay. If you guys I just wanted to announce the tally of the vote. And this is one of the rare situations where we have a unanimous vote, 35-0 supporting the plans as presented.